Are we good? Are we? Are we?
I think we're good. I think you can go.
And good morning, everybody,
Yeah.
and welcome back to Money. I like the crunchy intro. I like it where it's a little. You know why? Because it's real, and that's what people.
We're
want.
real.
Because this whole thing is real.
It's real as a heart attack, as they say. Yep.
And what this real thing that we're talking about right now? It's called Money in the Law. It's on My FM 101.3. It's also on the Holliston Hub, which is formerly known as the Holliston Cable Access Television Network.
Visionary geniuses.
And here we are again with your host, Jay Marsden, the exalted Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. And I'm John Drouin, his sidekick, his wingman, his...
straight man. Some would say straight man. Some would say straight man, right? You know?
Exactly. I mean, you are the great Johnny Carson, right?
You could be Ed.
I am. Yeah, that's okay. I laugh at your jokes. You're funny. Although I will say, anytime I see somebody who is a fan of the
avid
show.
fan of the show.
Anytime I say, I will always ask the question, and I'll get it's a loaded question, and I'm like, so, but you think I'm funnier, right? You think I'm funny. You think I'm funnier, and then of course because who they're talking, like, of course you are.
Yeah, you're
definitely
way funnier than Jay, way funnier than John.
Of course, there's nobody funnier in this room, not you, not me, but other than Tom Harmon, who is here for the Holliston Hub.
On the bag, yep.
Tom Harmon, and he's always got some kind of golf thing about him, right?
He's got a vibe. He's got a vibe.
Well, today he's got his Titleist hat on, and oftentimes
I think he's got golf shoes on today. He's walking around in a pair of cleats.
But he takes them off, right?
Yeah.
He takes them off so he doesn't mess up the rug, right? Because he's considerate.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He's not an animal. That's right.
No, but he's got on just in case. He's got to play a quick nine.
Yep. Did you ever, when you were working in a larger, let's say a larger organization, did you ever have those guys that kept the golf club like in their cube or in their workspace? And you know, like at Fidelity, you're in the sea of cubes, right? I mean, it's a cube farm. And so everyone had something that they were doing while they were on the phone. Because at some point, you know, you can answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've been asked the same question about the Contra Fund 1,000 times, right? You can answer it in your sleep, right? So at some point, you look around and everybody's on the phone and everybody's doing something, right? So guys are putting. That was a big thing, right?
Well, that was the invention of that when the headset came out, or when the headset, when the handless be able to talk on the phone. Right, like you said, like I'm like, right. So that's probably about an 80-20 asset allocation. Yeah,
it's a great fund. It's done really well in the 1 to 3 and the 5 year. And hold on, hold on. Oh, a foot from the cup. Hold on, I owe some money. I got to buy some beers tonight. Yep. And then we used to have this one kid who used to, so when you did trades for people at Fidelity and you'd open up new accounts, they had new account stickers. They actually had like a gigantic, it's not a safe, it was like a huge cabinet. And inside those cabinet were the unassigned stickers for all these new accounts that you'd have. So you'd open up a new account for somebody, you could actually do it on the phone for people, right? So you had all these stickers you give. So everyone would like turn their stickers into like artwork, right?
Of course.
So, you know.
So so if you open a new account, you got a sticker?
Well, the sticker was it was part of the account opening process. It wasn't stickers that we got like an attaboy. It wasn't an attaboy, right?
Wow,
it was just
that works.
It was
right?
it was part of the account opening process that you'd have all these stickers for trades and things like that. So again, people would make artwork out of them. People would have like a gigantic, basketball sized ball of stickers.
Wouldn't you?
Somebody had a baseball, like literally a baseball bat size sticker bat. People just sitting around like, yeah, sure, why not?
Limited by your own imagination.
I get 175 calls a day to take.
Sure.
Let me do something with my downtime.
I have nothing to do. I have nothing else to do other than make this sticker bat.
Work on my putting. Work on my putting.
Which you can never work too much on that. Is that right, Tom? Tom agrees wholeheartedly. All right. So, like I said, this is Money in the Law. We talk about things about money, talk about things about stickers. We talk about things in the legal world. Today, I have something I want to talk about.
Well,
today,
let's go.
And oftentimes, because Jay and I, we do extensive research prior to every show. And today, I did a little bit more research. Actually, I didn't, but I came up with this idea, and it wasn't, and it was one of those things that kind of hit me, and it dawned on me when my daughter was saying, I was like, hey, so what are you doing? And she's like, me and Max are going to the gym, and I'm like, oh, so, and I go, of course, to try and be like flippant, I'm like, oh, to increase your fitness, and I said, the word fitness, and I said, what? I mean, you want to be fit not only in your physical activity, you want to be fit,
you do.
But what about your financial fitness?
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I know. I mean, of course.
I knew you love the alliteration.
Of course
I know.
So, I was thinking about what does it mean to be financially fit? What does it take to achieve financial fitness? And I thought about, and then just off the top, as you think about it right now, you could probably think of it half a dozen things right off the top of your head of like, oh yeah, that's something I need to do. That's something I need to do. So So I want to, these are things that, of course, we've been doing this for 10 years now.
10-ish.
Yeah.
Yep.
So as we've been doing,
have we reached radio fitness, would you say? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, my point is that we, at the end of the day, oftentimes we'll talk about things that we may have mentioned, or,
Sure.
in the past.
A couple of repeats in there.
But the reason for that is because it's important, right? It's important, and just like when you have a review with your clients, so if I come to you and I say, Jay, it's time for my estate planning review, or you call me and say, hey, how's that going? Is there anything new? Is there anything that we need to update? I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe we should talk. There's a couple things that have changed. My job, my kids got married, or whatever the issue is. But those kind of things, those kind of checkups, they need to be. You'll review things that need to be reviewed, even though we may have talked about them before.
Well, I mean, think about when you talk about physical fitness, right? The underlying themes of staying physically fit are going to be consistent, right? You're going to move around. You can't just sit in your chair and wish it to happen, right? And you may go from time to time, you go to the gym, you kind of find yourself in a workout routine, you find yourself doing the same exercises, but what does everybody tell you who knows what they're doing when it comes to working out at the gym? Can't do the same things all the time, right? Got to mix it up, got to do something different. Again, the idea is the same, right? They don't say to you, look, stop running on the treadmill, go home and eat a bag of chips.
Exactly.
They say, well, instead of running on the treadmill, maybe you should do the elliptical machine, maybe you should do some lunges, maybe you should do some box jumps, maybe you should do some of this other stuff that's different, but it accomplishes the same objective.
If they tell you, I mean, when was the last time you're not doing box jumps, are you?
I was doing some box jumps for a while.
Stop it.
Like within, like not.
I was going to say, it all depends on, it's relative to the size of the box.
Not while I was building a sticker bat. I mean, it's actually in the relative near future, the near past. I was doing some box jumps.
Not that long ago.
But I got to tell you, I'm not jumping up like super high. Like
no, and the reason being is because you will hurt yourself. In the great words of Mickey, the trainer for Rocky, you'll hurt yourself permanently.
Yeah. So what I try to do is I try to establish a box jump that's about the same height as a cooler or something like that I may have to jump over.
A small cooler.
Probably in an effort to get to another more filled cooler. So that's about the height of my. And there's a practicality to my workouts.
I do, and I love the idea. And in the Army, that's all we did. Is like your workouts were all geared around your duty job, like what you needed to do. So if you were an artilleryman and your job was to load 155 artillery shells into the howitzer, then you need to be able to do that. You need to be able to do that well. So you need to be strong, right?
Yep.
But if you were like a light infantry guy and you had to walk 17 miles in the middle of the night, then you need to be. It's a little bit different.
Different exercise. You're lifting different. You're lifting.
So I like that. I like the
practicality. That's how I do it. That's how I roll. Yeah.
All right. So today let's talk about things that we can do, like kind of checklist of financial fitness and some of the things that we can do in order to kind of be more financially fit.
Are we taking a break first?
No, I don't want to. I mean, I want to talk about it. I mean, I just want to tee that up, but then is anything new with you?
No, nothing.
Nothing's
absolutely
new.
nothing. No,
nothing.
Nothing. Not one thing is new.
Nothing.
Nothing.
That's
absolutely
lie.
nothing.
New. What's new with you? He's shaking his head.
Tom's the same way. Tom's like, I am. Scratch
Your
golf.
summer's going good?
Summer's
Everybody's
going
summer
great.
going all right. Well, then let's take that break and we'll come back and talk about financial fitness.
Got it.
All right, don't go away.
All right.
We'll be right back. Money in the Loft.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tom on the bag. And we're talking about financial fitness. And although it may not appear, for example, if you happen to see me wandering down the beach, if it doesn't look like there's some financial fitness there, there's a little bit.
There's a little bit. It doesn't levels of all kinds of fitness.
It doesn't always show outwardly, but there's some financial fitness there. Right. Yes, absolutely right.
Well, I mean, as from a physical fitness standpoint, you're committed.
I'm there.
You haven't taken any months off or anything.
I'm not getting those texts from the gym anymore that say we haven't seen you in a while. Please come back. Please come back.
Are you still a member? Yeah.
That's right.
Just so you know, we're charging you again.
Did you get a new phone? We haven't heard from you in a while. That's right. I'm there with some regularity.
And you're also you're in the summertime. You're in that golf. You have your little golf operation.
A couple guys we get together with and play golf. So there's some movement.
There's some movement with that.
Yep,
all right. So we're talking about financial fitness. I'll pick that up.
Right.
So we're talking about financial fitness. And so the first thing that kind of comes to mind when I think, so again, this is like the fundamentals, the basics, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be financially fit, what's kind of the basis? What's the currency, for lack of a better term, of finance? It's money, right?
Well, I think that's why they call it finance.
Kind of what it's all about, right?
Yep.
So the whole concept of, in order to be financially fit, you got to have some kind of money. But let me ask you this: where do you get your money?
Where do I get it?
Where does anybody get it?
Well, they work for it.
They get an income, right?
Yes, sure.
So you're earning it, right?
Yeah.
And so this could apply to the person who's like get your first job where you're working at where you work cutting grass, or you're working at a at an electric shop, or
Sure,
you're working
firm.
or you're volunteer, or you're an intern at a law firm, a paid intern
Yep,
at a law firm.
Yep.
Or this is somebody who's retired, right? So I'm retired 10 years. I still have an income, right? So
yeah.
so it all kind of starts with your ability to earn money, or to earn money via whether to earn money or to receive money, whether it be for
pension,
from
Social Security. That's right. Yep.
So everybody needs an income, and your income may not come from anything other than the money that you have saved up, right? Sure. It could be just from the money you have saved, for all your years of working, and that's where you generate your income. And what we find, and I'm sure you as well, is in our practice, it all comes down. That's like the main thing, because that's what everybody's used to, right? You're used to, here's how much money I make, here's how much money I spend, and that's kind of ingrained in we kind of grow up that way, like throughout your lifetime. It's like, I make this much money, I spend this much money,
well, I mean, literally, to your point, from a simplification perspective, it's like, look, at some point during the month, somebody needs to drop money in your bank account. How much money is completely different for everybody, but at some point, you need to fill that bucket back up.
Yeah, and that's how everybody lives, right?
Yeah.
That's how, and even if it's, I'm sure you've seen people like this too, where people are just like, I have a bucket of money, and every month I take some money out of that bucket. It's no different, right? It's the same concept in that I'm in other words, I'm not going to spend all my money at one time, right? It's
That's right.
So and everybody's they're wired that way. That I receive money, I get money on a whatever regular basis, whether it's monthly, weekly, annually, whatever, and then I spend that. I spend some of that money. Either I spend more than that money that I get, right?
Right.
So that it starts kind of with your income. So from a financial fitness standpoint, if you don't have an income, then we really don't have a lot to talk about at that point.
No,
right?
there's not a lot to work with. That's the challenge, right?
Yeah. So so when we talk to clients, and let's say somebody gets laid off, or somebody has, or somebody they quit their job, and they don't have an income source, and they can't take money, they don't have money saved up. So I'm like, the first thing before we talk about anything else about financial fitness is you need a job, you need an income source, right? So
and just like trying to get financially fit, you need to be motivated. You need to want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. You need to make a decision that says, look, I'm going to get up and go to the gym every day. You need to decide, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to start saving some money based on, John's consultation.
Yeah, and one of the things that we see, and again, it's not super common, but it's not that uncommon, is oftentimes you'll see young people, right? You'll see young people that are kind of in that in-between space.
Yep.
And I'm not saying like one generation's different or better than another, but I just feel like that I've seen it more often, like recently, or in like kind of in this generation than in our generation, where kids get to that point where they're like, they're in that in-between where they're like, well, I don't really make a lot of money, and it's all because their parents are kind of still subsidizing that income, right? And it may be because they're students, it may be because they because they just don't have or they're doing like say an internship that's not paid in order for them to get their degree, or whatever the reason is, but they're at that point, where they're like, yeah, I'm kind of, my parents, I don't pay for my phone, I don't pay for my car insurance, so they're saying, oh yeah, I want to be financially, independent. I want to be able to do this, but you're not there yet, because you're not kind of in that. So the kind of financial fitness that for me, it starts with when you're kind of on your own, when you're doing when you're your own person, you're responsible for your own finances, and maybe you have some student loans that your parents are helping you with.
Right.
But I'm talking about like day-to-day stuff. My car, you pay for my car. I pay for my car insurance. I pay for my health insurance if I'm off my parents' health insurance. Like that's when you kind of become independent.
Well, I think the concept is, again, we'll use the analogy of the social fitness piece of it is, just like you're trying to say to yourself, look, I need to create healthy habits. I need to create a physically fit lifestyle. This is the same. The same exact thing applies to you on the financial side, which is, look, every day is not trained for a marathon, right? That's not the way that you engage yourself from a physical fitness perspective. You don't go to the gym and run 18 miles every day. You build this into your lifestyle. So what you're suggesting, I think, is it's the same thing on the financial side,
Sure.
right? You're at different levels of financial fitness, just like you are at different levels of financial fitness if you practice. You know, if you're running, for example, you train for the marathon. When you first strap those sneakers on, you're not ready for the marathon.
You're in a different level.
You're
right? You're
absolutely
in a different place.
You're in a different place. And
You're in 3 miles and I'm tired.
Yeah, that's right. And you're building up to it, and you're building up to it. And people say all the time, how do you run a marathon? Well, you run it one step at a time.
Yeah.
But you got to train for it.
You train for it one step the same way, right?
And your financial fitness is the same way. You don't just dive into, I'm ready to retire. It's a $1 at a time approach to kind of get you there.
Yeah, so like when you and that's a great analogy because when you're talking about, I know you know, which I'm reminding the audience.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you as like a young person is like saying, oh yeah, and I'll get this right. Yeah, I got some money from my grandmother or whatever, and I really want to invest it, and I want to buy some stocks, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, let's kind of and I try to kind of coach them into this. All right, well, where do you want to be in like 5 years? You know, what's your kind of that 5-year stepping stone, right? The short duration, like
absolutely.
Not like I want to retire or whatever. Young people don't talk about that, but it's like, where do you want to be? And I'll say, okay, that's great. You know, your grandma gave you some money, and I'm all about saving money, but let's talk about kind of where you are, because right now your grandma gave you money and you want to invest it in a portfolio, or you want to buy something, but you don't have a job, so you don't have an income, and your parents are still paying for your phone, and so that's cool that you want to invest, but at some point, what's going to happen? I tell this to them. I said, at some point, you are going to call me back, and you're going to say, hey, could you move $1,000 from my account to because my phone broke, or my girlfriend is like,
breaks my car went.
Exactly.
Going on a vacation.
Yeah. So and that's like normal life stuff. So I'll say, yeah, I get that you want to invest it, but you may use this money sooner rather than later. So there's a bigger thing that needs to get organized here. And the first thing is you need to, and if you're a student, right? If you're a student, then that's fine. Then I understand you're not working yet, but at the same time, let's figure out like where this is going to best be applied for you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's the first question. How much did you inherit, right? I inherit my grand left me, and that's the other thing. It's all based on their relative approach to wealth management, right? So if somebody says my grandmother left me a ton of money, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, well, I know what I think a ton of money is.
You're like not getting your hopes up.
Let's see if we're on the same page. What's a ton of money? Yeah. When you hear $1,500, you're like, all right, we can do some things with this, but we got to work on some stuff, right? And that's the equivalent of somebody saying, look, I'm going to go to the gym, and it's day one at the gym, and they come home and they're like, I'm exhausted. And they start looking at themselves in the mirror day one to see if there's any changes, or maybe they strike a pose, to see if their tricep muscles are actually showing underneath the sweatshirt or whatever. You'll say to yourself, I think it's day one. I don't think I know I know you probably feel okay, but it takes a little while to start showing up.
But you know what? You bring up a great point, because that whole, I mean, we joke about that.
Sure.
We joke about people like they check themselves out in the mirror, or they weigh themselves, or they're checking their progress, and I'm all for that. And when I see kids do it, and especially when we go to the gym, and it's mostly the younger people, right? Because guys like us, we try and stay away. I don't look too long in the mirror, right? I'm like, oh, really?
No, that's right.
Really? Do I look? Does my hair look?
I look terrible.
Right.
I look old.
Do I look that tired? Am I that
I don't look anything in my license picture.
Right, but the kids do it, right? And you know what? Good for them, because you know what they're doing, because that makes them feel good, and it makes them feel like that what they're doing is
they're checking their progress.
Exactly. And the same thing applies to financial fitness.
They're opening their statement. That's what they're doing.
We're talking about we're in the beginning phase, right?
Yes.
So the younger people. So someone says, okay, I get a job, and guess what? When someone gets a job, and I say, do you have a 401k? And they're like, yep, I got a 401k. I'm like, this is what we're going to do. Whatever the match is, you're going to put whatever the match, because that's free money. You get to keep it. You get to walk away with it, right? So no matter what, if it's a 3% match, you're going to invest in your 401k up to 3%, because they're going to give you 3% on the other side. Great. And when they start, so they'll open up their first 401k statement, like, I have $1,000. So like I have $1,000 that I've never I saved
that I've
myself.
never had in a million years.
Yep.
And if it's not a 401k, it's their brokerage account.
Yeah.
Let's say they buy their first mutual fund, and you know what they do all day long? they check in.
So
They
look
log in. They log in,
Yeah.
and they say to themselves, "I've been checking my portfolio today,
Good
even
for
though
you.
my portfolio consists of the Puritan
for
Fund."
you.
And they check it all day long, and they're amazed that the price hasn't moved until 5 o'clock
That is
because it only gets priced
insanity, yeah.
once a day,
All
and
day long.
And they forgot that. They think it's Tesla stock, so they're looking all day, and they're curious why nothing's happening. This is what
We're
happens.
just waiting for the big move
This
at the
is,
end.
This
Yeah,
is them
big
looking in the mirror.
surge at the
They're
end.
looking in the mirror. They're checking their progress.
So good for them, right?
Yes.
And that's the kind of thing. Like so when it comes to financial fitness, I'm all about that. I'm all about like kind of checking in, checking your stuff. Now you can be a little obsessive over it. And of course, we've seen plenty of clients that have done that, right? So where they're like, where they will look at it all day long. But it's not even so much like checking your account. It's checking to make sure it's checking in to make sure that like that you're kind of doing all the things that are right, or that someone's kind of coached you into saying this is what you need to do, and that you're kind of remaining consistent with that. And that same with the lifting thing, right?
Right.
Or the working out thing. It's all about consistency, right?
Well, it's about creating the habit, right? It's creating the habit, right? So once you start going to the gym for what, 3 weeks? What do the scientists say? Like after 3 weeks, that's how long it takes to kind of create a habit. So if somebody's checking
That's
their
way
statement,
too long.
it feels a lot longer.
Oh God! In 3 weeks, I'm ready to take my 3-week break.
But if you're excited, if this is new, if you're starting to build your financial fitness, you'll check in a lot in the beginning, right? Because you're really committed to it, like everybody is. They're committed to a new workout regimen. They're committed to their new fitness, their new financial regimen, and then at some point, it hopefully becomes habit, right? Where they check their statement when it comes in, or they check it online, or whatever they're doing. But now it becomes habit, and they're doing it on a regular basis.
So that's the kind of the first step of anything is your income, is your ability to earn income or get in wherever your money comes from, right? So the other side of that coin is from a financial fitness standpoint is like, okay, if I make X amount of dollars, do I spend more or less than X on that during that period? And that's the question, right? So
well, if I'm your initial fitness evaluation,
if I'm right, and this is part of that whole right. So I say, okay, I made X amount of dollars this month, but I spent X plus 500.
Yeah.
And that's how much I spent. You're like, oh, so now I'm in the red. I'm operating in the red.
Yep.
So you're spending like what you're and granted. The whole budgetary process, it's always more of a guideline than a rule, because there's going to be some things that happen on 1 month to the next that you don't, costs that come up. But in general, what you're spending, that's the next, absolute the next. And before you save a dime, that's the next thing that you have to check and make sure that you know what's going on, and that you're checked in with that, and that you have a plan for that.
Well, and so to keep the analogy going, if you had fitness goals, you'd say to yourself, all right, what's my fitness goals? Is my fitness goal is it to lose weight? Is it to get, more tone? Is it to just feel better overall and be more healthy? And then you're going to go through the same thing. You're going to say, well, let's see, what am I doing right now? If I'm at Wendy's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, that could be something that's kind of the equivalent of a financial deficit, which is, well, I'm not making the best use of my fitness, just like I'm not making the best use of my finances.
I'm eating way too much, right?
That's right. So now I got to do an evaluation and say, okay, what's holding me back from my goals, or are my goals aligned with my activities?
Or why do I feel like I'm not making progress?
Why am I not making progress?
Why do I feel?
Absolutely right.
So this whole concept of being financially fit is, and again, this is not even close to rocket science. It's like you need to spend less than what you make, right? That's and then depend upon what your goal is, right? If my goal is I want to save for a house, or my goal is I want to save for retirement, or my goal is I want to be save to be able to put my kids through college, then you really have to spend less than what you make. There has to be a significant delta in that I make sure I don't spend nearly as much as I make, because that the money that in between, that needs to get saved, and where it gets saved that's the next part of this conversation.
Well, it's like deciding, what am I doing? Am I joining a gym? Or are my fitness goals?
What am I training for? Right.
That's right. Are my fitness goals going to be accomplished by me just working out on, running running on a rail trail, running on the, biking? What am I doing? Am I doing, outside stuff, or am I going to go do this someplace? This is the equivalent of Where am I going to save my money? How am I going to achieve my goals?
Sure, right. If my
What tools am I going to use to achieve my goals?
Sure. If my doctor says to me, like, if it's one person, if it's a 22-year-old person, say, oh well, you need to exercise and do cardio and a combination of strength in order to be physically fit. So a 22-year-old, yeah, that's pretty easy for a 22-year-old. But if you're a 50-year-old and your doctor says, you're pre-diabetic and you need to lose 50 pounds because you are at least 50 pounds overweight, that's a different type of workout.
It's a different level of commitment.
That's a different level of commitment. It's a different routine. It's a different fitness regimen that you need to get into.
Different tools you're going to need to use. Correct.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. All right. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about some of the things, some other things that you can do. I mean, I'm feeling it, right?
Burn. Feel the burn.
Feeling strong.
Feel the burn.
Strong.
Back and by day.
Stay strong. Back, by, and bench.
Yep.
We bench every time. Oh, you're always bench. You're always benching. All right. Take a break from your bench right now. We'll be right back. I feel good.
And we're back. Money in the Law, MyFM. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tom, we're here working out. We're at the gym. We're at the financial gym today. We're at the financial gym today.
Right?
That's right.
Feels good.
That's right. We're at Financial Fitness today, right? Not to be confused with some of those other fitness places.
Why doesn't, and again, not a sponsor, but could be the gym at Milford. Why don't they do this? Why don't we? It's a no-brainer. Right.
There might be a T-shirt involved for somebody. I mean, come on, we're over there all the time.
That's right.
Walking around
all the time,
not talking to anybody, too often. Complaining about people who don't wipe the machines off. I mean, this is different. This is like it's the equivalent of handing somebody a sweaty pen while they fill out your annuity app, right? You can't wipe that off. You wipe that off.
Who wants to do? Let's talk about financial fitness, right?
Guys, jump on the treadmill. Jump on the treadmill. I'll stand right next to you, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk long-term bonds for the whole 30 minutes.
Who doesn't want Jay Marsden to spot for him? All right, Jay. Yeah, here you go. Two more. You got two more. I didn't even touch it.
We're going to talk ETFs. We're going to talk ETFs. We're going to talk 60-40 allocations. Nothing will make your workout fly by like a nice 60-40 asset allocation conversation.
Right? Nothing.
That would just. God,
that's getting me.
I feel like I just got on the treadmill.
I feel like I could go back on the treadmill.
30 more minutes. I don't know what's more painful. Yep. That's right.
So everybody's like, what are
they talking about?
What are you talking about? All right, what we are talking about is financial fitness. We're talking about how you achieve financial fitness. So we talked about income. It's important you have income, and it's important that you have a positive gain. So you spend less than you make.
That's right.
At the end of it. So once you get there, now we're in business, right? And when I say spend less,
and you're committed to the project. Yep. You're into it. Yep.
And so when I say spend less, it means that's kind of your comprehensive spending, right? That includes like things like your health insurance and like things that you don't really that can maybe come out of your paycheck, right? Things that if you have life insurance, like those kind of things. That's all part of like this is how much it costs for me to live, right?
Yeah, you can evaluate it and say, there's a couple of extra bucks in there.
Well, that's part of it, right? Yeah. Part of it is kind of evaluating that spending, right? Because what you want to do is you want to figure out how can I create a big enough gap between what I make and what I spend in order to achieve a higher level of financial fitness.
And by the way, in the beginning, just like in the beginning of a fitness regimen, your gains may be small and incremental, but they'll be noticeable, right? You'll feel like something's different.
Yeah, and we talked about that, like how you want to check in. Like, if I'm at the gym and I'm weighing myself and I'm like, oh look, or I'm measuring my waistline because I'm cutting down, or I'm looking at I'm like, wow, I look a little stronger than I did, right? Then
that's right.
All that makes you feel better. And the same thing, you do the same thing financially.
And so does your improving financial fitness. It also feels good.
Okay, so let's talk about, all right, so the next big thing that kind of hangs over the glaring thing is, we talked about income, we talked about spending. Okay, so the next thing I need to, as far as savings, more than anything else, what I want to do is I want to save. All right, now hold on to your seats, because this is like some deep, like targeted financial, like not many people know about this. I want to save
money.
I want to save
cash
money. And where do I mean, and this is definitely a strange place to put it. Where would I put this cash that I'm saving? What's the best place to think?
You're talking about my favorite place?
Well, I mean, no. I'm talking about just before we go to your favorite place. This is like your second favorite place. You need to save it in this place first, because there's no risk. It's guaranteed by the
bank.
It's called the bank, right? It's called the bank.
All right, so I have a thought on this. Go ahead.
FDIC.
Yep.
So before anything, I need to have cash. I need to have something to show for my savings.
For my effort.
For my effort, right? So I spend less than I make, so I put that money in the bank. And the reason I talk about this is because everything kind of evolves. Everything comes from the fact that I have cash.
Yep.
And I have to have this cash base. And depending upon where I am in my life, depending upon how much that monthly spending is, depending upon what my obligations are, depending on how much I make, all of that's going to affect what that baseline cash number is.
Yep.
But when someone comes to me and says, "Oh yeah, I really want to start investing," that's great. How much money do you have in the bank?
Right.
And if they tell me I have $1,500 in the bank, I'm like, hey, we're going to get there, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to save cash. We're going to save cash, and that's.
And so the argument, so the question we get all the time is how much cash, right? How much cash? And so on the law side, what we're always telling people is that your bank account, checking and savings account, that's your operating account.
Correct.
Right? Money goes in, money goes out. Money goes in, money goes out. And your savings account is designed to hold money that you might need in case of an emergency.
Yep.
What's the emergency? Water heater, brakes, transmission, something crazy that you're like, oh, I need to pull $3,000 out because I wasn't expecting this outrageous bill that just come up out of the blue, and I don't want to put it on a credit card.
Yeah,
right?
and the other side of that is it could also be for an opportunity, right?
That's right.
When someone says, "Hey, dude, listen, I got an extra ticket to the
Luke Combs concert?
To the Luke Combs concert, which is happening in Seattle. Can you get your butt out here and spend the weekend?" You'll be like, "Yes, I can."
Right, but this is kind of like again from the fitness thing. This is where it should be on autopilot.
Correct.
You should try to have some money filling up that savings account bucket every month. This is your just get up and show up at the gym opportunity here. This is not anything other than
that's walking in the gym.
That's exactly right. That's just
walking in the door.
That's just showing up with some regularity,
Yep,
right?
that's walking.
And some weeks you're going to go 3 or 4 days a week, and some weeks you're going to go 1 day a week.
Right.
Some months you're going to save more than you put in there. Some weeks you're going to save less than you put in.
Using your fitness analogy, right? Let's say you're running, you're doing some off-road trail running, and you twist your ankle, right?
Bingo.
So you get injured, so you're not going to be able to run for a while.
Right.
But so that means, and that when you translate that to your financial fitness, let's say that a bill comes up, or or a cost comes up, or you have to put something on your credit card, and you really want to pay down that credit card. So you're not going to be able to save as much money during that time period while you're paying down that debt, or in the case of the fitness level, while you're healing from your.
You threw $7,500. You're feeling really good about it. Bang, bill comes up. You weren't expecting it. $2,000. Now your 75 becomes 55. You're not loving it, but you're going to still keep going. You're going to still continue the activity.
So continue your thought on how much money you think you need for your savings.
Oh, so we always use it as a ballpark. There's always a number the bank says, oh, if you give us, 10 grand, 15 grand, that's how much to make your ATM charges free and your statements free. And, we kind of feel like that's the emergency number. And then if we're putting our lawyer hat on, it's an amount of money that's under the easy breezy probate threshold, which is about 25 grand.
Yeah.
That's kind of our thing. We figure, you know what? You're not a gangster. You don't need more than 25 grand on a Sunday. This is pretty straightforward. That should be enough.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have clients that are like, yeah, that's all well and good, Jay. I need to have $50,000 in the bank. And you know what? Again,
there's a rationale for that. There's a rationale for that. I'm not going to talk them out of it.
And it may be a rationale that you and I don't agree with, but it may be they're like, I want to know when I go to bed that if I have to wake up tomorrow and write a $50,000 check, I can do it. If I need to buy a car, if I need to whatever, and it's funny because we get the same thing, like how much money, and oftentimes and I'm sure you've seen this where a client will have a lot of cash, right?
Yep.
They'll be like, I'm sitting on $200,000 in cash, right? And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. I don't know if you need that much. I don't know. And again, it's all kind of based on when you're going to use the money.
Oh, you're going to ask questions. You're just going to ask different questions, right? If the answer is, well, actually, we're buying a place on the Cape, we're closing in 55 days,
that's different, right?
And I need to have that money available. That makes perfect sense,
that's right? That's right.
If the answer is, I don't know what to do with it, okay, that's a different conversation, right?
Yeah, and you could, like, from a fitness level, you could kind of equate that to, so let's say you see somebody who's like, somebody who's like in good shape and strong, right? And they put on like, maybe like, 2 35-pound plates, and they're like, and they lift it, like 900 times, and you're like, hey, you know what? If I'm, again, if I'm your fitness coach, I'm gonna say maybe you want to put on a little more weight, to try and to put more stress on your to put more stress on your body. Controlled stress, so you can become stronger, or whatever.
Well, they do one rep. Well, they do one rep, and you say to yourself,
right?
"Hey, quick question for you. I'm not a professional. I know I look like a professional athlete. I'm not.
One would confuse
Often
me with a
confused.
Mr. Universe.
Often confused.
Exactly.
But I noticed that you did one rep. I'm just curious. I've never seen you here in the gym before, ever. You look pretty new to this. Is there a method to the madness?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. And if the answer is, oh yeah, I'm actually working on this time-tested workout, and here's it. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a method to this. Or I'm brand spanking new, and I'm just trying not to hurt myself.
Exactly.
Or
I just had shoulder surgery.
Or I had an injury, and I want to make sure I
Yep.
don't. This is part of my PT. Oh, you know what? Then I'll keep my mouth shut and get out of the way. Assuming that we were asked for advice. I never solicit advice at the gym, and I don't give unsolicited advice.
You know what? Sometimes it just comes out.
But
right?
that's the method. That's the whole,
Exactly.
do they know what's going on? Do they know what they're doing? And we'll find out.
Okay,
We'll figure it out.
all right, so the cash. So it's important to have cash. Like that's kind of the
Cash
next
is
step.
key. Yep.
All right. So then on the antithesis of cash, or the other side of that, the kind of the opposite or the inversion of that, to me, the next thing is debt. Right, so let's talk about debt, because if we're talking about financial fitness, because most people at some point will incur some sort of debt.
It's the McDonald's to our financially fit plan.
Exactly.
That's
right?
what it is.
But
Not fast food. Sorry, McDonald's. Fast food.
But in some cases, it could be not the McDonald's. It could be the Zanzibar of your financial plan,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because not all debt is bad.
Well,
not all debt is bad. Not all debt is. I mean, debt may be necessary, may be absolutely necessary in order for you to achieve your financial goals.
Well, not every trip to McDonald's is a death sentence, right? It's all moderation.
That's right.
It's all moderation. Figure it all out.
Right. If you've just driven, 11 hours, if you're driving back from Florida and you haven't eaten anything.
You're weak from hunger. You're about to roll off the road.
I'm just saying,
and
right?
the only thing you see anywhere you look are the golden arches.
And
get yourself in there.
Yeah, and you get a like a supersized Coke, and you're like,
and a delicious fish fillet sandwich.
And you eat one of those, right?
Maybe two.
You
Probably
feel
two.
well,
two.
Maybe as long as you're committed to it's almost like taking time off from the gym, right?
They get the cheat day. They get the double cheeseburger.
You get the double,
so
right?
good.
I know. So it's good, and it's
those
and
fries?
sometimes it's necessary,
man.
and it sure is a treat, right?
it's a treat, all
It's a
right.
treat, but at the same time, the idea of it's being able to manage that debt and make sure that the debt that you have is for a positive thing, and if it's not, or whether it is or whether it isn't, that there's a plan to reduce and eventually eliminate that debt.
Absolutely right.
Because we always talk about, especially credit card debt, as like the opposite of investing, right?
Yep.
So when someone says, I want to invest, I'm like, I'll ask.
It's the anti-investment. Yep.
I say, do you have, is there any credit card debt? Yeah, I have $10,000 in credit card debt. I'm like, okay. There you go. So I don't know what the market's going to give you on the investment portfolio that we put together, but I sure know what that credit card's going to charge you. And so those are two different things.
Well, and it's the same idea, right? From a financial fitness perspective, you say to yourself, look, what's your diet like, right?
Yep.
And somebody says, well, I don't eat great. I eat a lot of pizza. I eat a lot of burgers. I eat a lot of fast food. I do this or that. I say, okay, that's not great. Okay,
Yep.
So we have to come up with a plan to address that.
There
right?
you go. So
are
debt is a bad diet.
Are you going to go cold turkey?
Yeah.
Maybe not. You're going to say, look, why don't we
Yeah.
cut the burgers down to one a week? Let's give you a cheat day. Let's figure it all out. Same thing with your debt, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to just wipe it out right now, but we're going to put a plan in place to attack it so we get it out of the system.
Exactly. So, and again, we talked about kind of good debt and bad debt, right? So consumer debt or credit card debt, usually very, very high interest rates.
Sure.
And it's for and again, it may be you had to do it. I mean, it's not your fault, right? Maybe
Right.
you're on that drive home from Florida or whatever, but you may have had to do it. But at least you have a plan to kind of take. But then there's the other side, which is the good debt. So let's say you need a car to go to work, and instead of spending all the money in your bank account to buy a car,
Right.
you finance said car.
Yep.
And that's, so to me, financing a car, as long as the interest rate is reasonable, as long as the payments are, and it all fits inside of that kind of my financial fitness plan,
Yep.
then to me that's good debt. Because what does a car enable me to do? It
to
enables
work,
me
make
to go.
money.
It enables me to go to work. It enables me to live my life. It enables,
Correct.
and life isn't just go to work and go to bed and go to work. It's to live your life and be able to, you know, do things on the weekend and enjoy yourself. So when you do go to work, work is work, and
Right.
and I don't spend all
Getting
my time
to
at
and
work.
from work is convenient. It's easy. You're not. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Or then you take it to the next step and you say another kind of debt, which I think is positive debt, as long as it's in control and as long as is student debt. So if I can't afford to, if I get into Princeton, and guess what? And it's going to cost me, you know, 50, you know, from my financial aid package, I got to pay. Well, let's pretend that I have to
Call it 70.
Let's say I have to. Well, now we're in like let's say my financial aid package is $50,000, so I have to finance $50,000 per year at Princeton. It's a lot of money, right?
Yep.
But it's Princeton, right? So whatever student loan debt that is reasonable.
Sure.
Again, that's an investment, right? That's an investment in my future. My investment in my ability to go back to, you know, square one, is my ability to eventually to earn income, right?
Yep.
So to me, student debt, again, as long as it's not astronomical, and it's not, because you can get astronomical with
Well,
it.
we've talked about this in the show. Debt built this country, right? Debt built this country.
Well, that's it, right?
Right. So yes, to your point, if the rates are reasonable and it's worth the return on investment, then the debt makes sense. That's
Yeah, and
different than just casual willy-nilly. I'm just ringing up crazy debt that I'm never going to get in front of.
Yeah, and like you said, debt built this country. So when we talk about real estate, I mean, most, if not all real estate is purchased with some form of debt.
Correct.
Right? You're not going to, I mean, very rarely, I mean, unless you're one of those guys who are buying those houses in Nantucket and you're writing a check on the hood of your car, like, how much, what do you say? 4.5. What do I make?
That
this
include
out to?
closing costs?
Yeah.
That include closing costs? Okay.
Is your lawyer around? Because whatever, we could just do this right now, and it's as is, right? I don't even care.
Oh, fully furnished, turnkey,
Yeah,
turnkey.
yeah.
I'll take it all. Okay.
All right.
Here you go.
All right, here you go. Here you
Yep.
go, right there. Yeah.
That happens.
It's going to take. I'm sure it happens more
On
often
the
than
regular.
Not. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. That's a different level of financial.
That's a whole other class. That's a whole
Yeah.
other radio show.
Yeah.
Whole other radio show.
So for the normal people or the real people, not like the cartoon characters that can do that, you have your real estate debt, your mortgage debt, like that's a good debt. That's a good debt to have. Again, so long as it's reasonable, so long as it fits within your plan. Because how many times have you seen people like, oh yeah, I just refinanced, took cash out, so now and then when we saw it during the housing crisis, right? How many people refinanced, took cash out, put their cash God knows where,
right?
Like, and then now they're underwater on their mortgage, right? They're underwater on the value of their house. They're like, oh, I owe $500,000 on a house that's worth $400,000.
Yeah, that's a whole debt disaster. That's kind of the idea of, I can't believe I'm not making any headway, you know, eating poorly 7 days a week, right?
Sure.
And you know, then it's math, right? My calories in versus my calories out, just like savings, right? My calories in, calories out, savings in, savings out, income in, income out. Doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It's like having
Upside down.
It's like having a membership to like the most elite gym, but you can't afford it, right?
Right.
Like it's like those like Soul Cycle, right? Like I'm sure the Soul Cycle workouts are fantastic, but it's, you know, $40 a pop. You can't afford to go to Soul Cycle 4 times a week and pay $40 a class.
Well, but the other thing is, it just may not be where you start.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, we're talking about walking before we run, right? So the Soul Cycle thing might be something that you say, look, I want to graduate to that, but I can't dive into that. I'm not getting value out of that. That's actually working against me,
right,
because it gets so expensive and I'm not ready for the workouts that it becomes disincentivizing for me to even go. So now you become the anti-worker. This is kind of the same idea, right?
Yeah.
So working around that.
You are working around that.
Yeah,
So we've covered income, we've covered expenses, we've covered your cash level, and managing your debt. So now that's kind of like those are the corners. Those are the 4 corners of kind of like this, what your financial fitness plan is built on.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So fits right in with this. So do you hire a trainer?
Oh, that's a great question.
I mean, as a trainer.
As a financial, I mean, we should change this whole, like a financial trainer, right?
Yeah. At the sound of the brakes you just heard, folks, was the question that you don't want to ask unless you know the answer to.
Yeah.
That's the analogy.
Do you hire a financial trainer?
Will hiring a trainer help you get to your goals faster.
Right, and then I always go back to the question which was asked by the late great Joe Godfrey, who I told you about. It's one of the pioneers who brought me into the industry. Where he said, he was standing up there and he said, "Okay, this is 20 years ago." He goes, "Who's the greatest golfer right now?" And he goes, and Joe Godfrey, I don't even know if he played golf. He goes, "Who's the greatest golfer right now?" Everybody's like, Tiger Woods, best golfer right now. They go, "Okay, so do you think that anybody knows more about golf than Tiger Woods?" They're like, no. He go, "How many coaches do you think Tiger Woods has? How many golf coaches?" And then he's like, "Well, maybe one." He goes, "Nope, he's got 5 coaches.
Yep.
5 coaches that are telling the greatest player the greatest player, and certainly the greatest player right now, how to play golf."
Yep.
And so he's like, so that's the kind of, he's like, so that's why, and he was saying, that's why they need you. That's why people out there need people like you.
Yes.
And it's not a, and again,
But the reasons are the same. We're talking about the analogy.
Exactly, right.
The reasons are the same, right? Yes. Can you go to the gym every day by yourself? Sure you can. Are you going to know what to do when you get there? Maybe.
Yep.
Are there going to be better ways for you to do what you're doing to get better results? Probably.
Yep.
Do you need somebody to kind of give you some accountability and make sure that you show up? Yes. Do you need somebody who gives you grief when you make bad decisions and don't show up? Yes. Your financial trainer is going to do the same exact things for you. They're going to help you put a plan together, keep you on the path,
and keep you on track, and kind of hold you accountable to your consistency.
Yes.
So like when you have your meeting, you have your financial meeting, and you say, "Hey," and everybody asks all the questions, "What's going on? What's going on?" And you say, "Okay, look, I get it. That's great. The last time we talked, you had no credit card debt, and now you have $15,000 of credit card debt. Where did that come from?"
Right.
"Oh, this," or "I don't know," and then and it's like, okay, we need to kind of.
And there may be a reason. Again, there may be a really good
reason.
reason. But if there's no reason, there may be a little shaming involved to help, because people will work against their own best interest.
Sure.
Right. And so your trainer, who has no skin in the game, is going to be very upfront with you. There's going to be some tough love that says, "Look, you can keep operating that way. Right?
Yeah.
You can keep eating poorly. You can keep not showing up for these workouts." Then this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. You're not going to get to your goal.
You're not going to lose weight.
So
You're not gonna, right.
if you don't care about your goal, then we're wasting our time, and I need to go spend my time with people who really do care about getting to their goal, because you're just wasting your time and your money. And I'll take the money, that's fine, but I'm not going to show up for the time anymore.
Wait, that's a lawyer talk.
Right?
No,
That's the lawyer
talk.
So this is the same idea. Your financial fitness is, look, if you don't want to do the steps, if you don't want to put the time in, if you don't want to show up for the meetings, I can't help you out. I can't help you get to your goals. That's the accountability. That's the potential shaming that sometimes you need to get yourself on track.
And that's the kind of right. And let's say for whatever reason, let's say you can't do what you can't save money because of X, or because your bills are too high, or because you've got yourself in a position where your costs are too high. So then it's like your fitness trainer, your financial fitness is going to say, look at this. I'm going to help you see this. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to have enough money to retire. Right. Like you say, "Oh, I want to retire as soon as I hit 66, and I'm going to start taking my Social Security." You're not going to have enough money. There's no possible way that you're going to have to be able to cover the expenses that are going to still be projected when you hit age 66.
Well, and this is like when you find some flashy, fancy workout online, and you say to yourself, "Oh my God, that looks really cool.
Sounds like an annuity.
I'm going to do that," right? But then your fitness person, your financial fitness trainer, and your physical fitness trainer is going to say, "Look, that we can work up to that. Okay, you're not ready for that. You don't have the base level of financial fitness or the base level of physical fitness to even attempt something like that. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to hurt yourself, and it's going to set you back."
Right. How many times have you seen people like, "Oh yeah, I'm maxing out my 401k, I'm maxing out my 401k," and they're in credit card debt.
Right.
And you're like, "That's great. I get that you want to, I'm paying off my house. I'm paying extra on my house."
That's the big one right there.
I'm paying extra on my house. I'm going to pay my mortgage off, but I'm not saving any money for retirement. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So when you do retire and you only have $100,000 in your 401k, yeah, that's great. Your $1,800 a month house payment is going to go away, and you're going to own your house outright. But where are you going to generate your income from?
That's right. That's right. So again, you think you're doing the right thing, and in a silo, it sounds like the right thing, but you're not getting the advice and guidance, the financial fitness advice and guidance to say, This is a worthy goal, but we have to line a couple of things up.
Think about it from back to our fitness analogy. So think about somebody who just like if for the lifting analogy, because again, Jay and I we
gym rats.
We lift.
Yeah.
Well, probably a little too much.
Yeah.
Right? We get that a lot, right?
I know, we get a lot.
Yeah, like
Dial it down.
You guys are here a little too much.
You hurt somebody.
It's your second time here today, right? No, but it's the equivalent of I'm just going to lift one muscle group. So I'm just going to bench, and every day I'm going to bench, and again, I love benching. Don't get me wrong. I mean, benching is the key to all happiness and lifting. But in all seriousness, if you bench and you don't do any other muscle group, right? Then that's great, and it's like the same as I'm going to pay off my house, and guess what? I'm going to pay off if I keep doing that. My house will eventually get paid off, but I'm going to be so weak in other areas that I'm not going to achieve if my goal is to be strong or to be healthy or to not have back problems guess what? Everything else is going to compensate for the fact that
there's so many components to it, right? This is the old
many muscle groups.
There's so many physical, financial groups, physical fitness groups. It's a whole thing, right? So I'm going to go run a marathon. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to have a heart attack. Is what you're going to do. Probably around Ashland, right? If you get that far, right? Because
both of your Achilles will spontaneously combust.
That's right. That's right. You're just not ready. You haven't put the time in. We'll get there, but you're not there yet. This is the process of walk before you run and begin the process. Train, work with the trainer, understand what your goals and objectives are. The analogies are legion back and forth on this thing.
Yeah, so the whole idea of getting a financial fitness trainer, right? And we're not trying to sell this as like, but this is where it's all getting to, like, you need guys like us.
Well, you do, but yeah.
Well, but it's the like you said, some people may need different levels of financial fitness of training, right?
Yep.
So if it's somebody just coming out of college and they just got their first job, that's pretty, and they're still living at home, or they just moved out, and then it's say, okay, and they're like kind of short-term goals. I want to buy some property someday, right?
Yeah.
Someday, sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And I want to, but I also want to be 25, and I want to live in Boston, and I want to
travel and do all kinds of stuff.
Exactly.
Yes.
I want to run with my buddies, and I'm not married, and I can go do do all that. I don't have any responsibility. I'm not beholden to anybody. And when I talk to kids like that, I'm like, hey, that's important, right? You need to. That's part of it.
Gotta live your life.
That's part of it. And if you're at this period of your life, if part of it is you're going to go on trips, you're going to go to go be in weddings, and it's wedding season, right?
You're going to have 12 of those. Yep.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so that's part of that whole financial plan. So that guidance is pretty easy. Save money in the bank, save money in your 401k, and you want to buy a house in how many years? In 3 years? Okay, then we're gonna, and maybe I'll invest a piece of that.
We have a plan for that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a plan we can pull together quickly.
And it's an easy plan.
Correct.
And it's an easy plan. So that's the equivalent of someone just getting going and like say, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Here's your fitness routine, right?
Yep.
We're gonna do this for the next 6 months.
Jump on the treadmill, hit the machines.
Exactly.
You're good. Yep.
Exactly.
And that's good because you're coming from nowhere.
Yep.
So we're going to make some progress and make some progress quick right away.
Now that's different from the 55-year-old guy who comes in and says, hey, listen, I've worked my whole life. I worked a government job. I have this pension. I have saved this much money. I have this property.
Sure.
And I want to retire in 5 years. Here's and oh, by the way, my wife is she wants to stop work and retire as well. We have 2 kids. One still has 2 more years left in college.
One's got special needs. There's a whole nother different conversation.
That's a different kind of level of plan. It's a different fitness routine, right?
Yep.
That's like the 50-year-old who has to lose 50 pounds, right?
Yeah.
It's like I have to lose 50 pounds because I'm pre-diabetic and my doctor says that I have to do this and for like I need it and it's serious. It's not like if I don't do it then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I don't do it then my health is going to deteriorate.
I've never saved for retirement. I waited way too long and now I get to play catch up and I really have a lot to do, and if I don't do it, I'm going to be in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Same idea.
So just to kind of to wrap this up, because the other part of like the whole financial fitness piece is, again, it's a long term, and we always say like kind of all things lead to retirement.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, and all these plans, all these strategies, everything that we do kind of leads to retirement. But then on the other side of retirement is that, okay, so making the assumption that I'm going to have a happy and healthy and long retirement, then if there's stuff left over, or if there's something that I want to make sure happens,
Sure.
then that kind of carries right into that estate plan as well. So your financial fitness, also it kind of ends with you're with the ultimate goal of like being kind of winning the game.
As you run through the tape.
Exactly.
That's what they say, baby. Run through the tape. I love it.
So that estate plan, and so that estate plan, and so if something happens to something happens along the way, or if something happens that doesn't really go according to that plan,
right.
that things are that everybody, all the people that you care about are going to kind of stay on that existing glide path. So before we go, I have to shout out the one of my dear friends, Hillary Wirtz. Her father passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Who is Rocky Wirtz, who is he's the owner of the Chicago Blackhawks. He just recently passed. But again, it's one of those. He's 70 years old, but he was a healthy guy, a healthy guy, and you just don't know. So something kind of changes on a dime. So again, it's all part of this kind of financial fitness piece of stay fit, but at the same time you want to that estate plan, or that emergency plan, if you will. If something happens that doesn't go according to plan, you have
somebody
people
to
stay on there.
Get advisors. Get trainers.
Get
trainers.
Get your trainers.
Talk to your trainer.
I mean, we probably could do both, right? You could do financial fitness and regular fitness.
I'm hitting the steam room. Let's wrap it up.
All right. We'll see everybody next week on Money in the Law on My FM 101.3, Holliston Hub, HCAT, Jay Marsden, John Joanne. Hope everybody has a great weekend.
Yeah.
Continue a great summer.
Yeah. Have a great summer. Continue your hot advisor summer.
Yeah. We'll see
hot lawyer summer.
We'll see everybody next week. Is there music next week? I'm crossing my fingers.
We'll see.
See you next week.
Have a good week, everybody.